show, everybody. I'm your host, Jesse Hubbard, and this is Sound Out. With me today is frontman of the Columbus, Ohio outfit, Zoo Trippin, and also one of the people responsible for a big show going on in a matter of days. It's something that is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts in the local Columbus music community. We're going to get more into that in a little bit, but first off, Tony Casa, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be a part of all this stuff, man. Not just the show, but your show as well, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. It's funny. Like, we know a lot of the same people. We've never met. This is our first time talking, so it's cool to sit down with you and kind of like dive into some music chat, right?
Yeah, man, making a new friend. I love it.
That's what it's all about.
That's hard to do when I'm getting close to 40. So this is great.
I'm on the other side of 40, so yeah. I feel you, brother. I feel you. Well, listen, I'm a fan of the band. I love what you guys do. You're very well known. Do a lot of different fun, different shows, different projects, and something that I struggled with was trying to figure out the words to describe your band to somebody who may be tuning in that isn't familiar. So how would you describe Zoo Trippin to a new listener?
We've always had difficulty with it as well. It's ridiculous. Like, and I hate being like the guy who's like, oh, we play a little bit of everything. A, because I can't stand that saying, and B, because we don't really play country. But we will find a way to play anything. I mean, we've even snuck into festivals that were folk, and we've never played folk. They were like, "Oh, well, we need a folk band. Are you a folk band?" We're like, 100%. We're absolutely a folk band. We just go in there and try to figure it out. But no, I guess we're more rooted in just like an alternative style of rock. We're just a high energy band. So if it's funk, it's going to be high energy. If it's rock, it's high energy. We like to call ourselves an apocalyptic party rock band. But as for genre, it technically is a little bit of everything, especially because we like to feature people, kind of like Gorillas.
Yeah, it is really cool. One of the things. So I started like looking a little bit online. I wanted to hear your take before I said this because you may have put this out there a while ago and don't remember specifically. But I went to the Bandcamp, and I'm gonna read for everybody, which is what is one of my favorite descriptions for a band that I've ever seen on Bandcamp.
Okay, so, I don't even know what this is gonna say. This is funny.
Yeah, you guys' Bandcamp. I don't usually recite the Bandcamp, but I have to. It says you're blues, rock, funk, hop from Columbus, and you bring the thunder.
You know what? That's not a bad description, actually.
It's great.
I remember
it's great. And it goes
blues,
on to
rock,
say,
funk,
whether
hop,
playing to 10 people or 10,000 people, the Band of Animals brings an unparalleled energy to every performance, ranging from a 5-piece rock outfit to a 13-piece funk circus. I love that.
Yeah, those bigger shows that we do, like if we ever do like something like the Newport Music Hall, or like we headline Confest every now and then, and they have bigger stages where we can stretch out. That's when we love to really feature, the city's artists. Man, we'll get dancers and we'll get painters, we'll get full horn section, keys, strings, whatever we can find. Really, we love that stuff. I thought that was a much weirder actually description because Zachary Ponser in our band, he writes the wildest shit on everything. If he gets a hold of a bio, he's going to make it a crazy bio. If it's the guest book in a hotel we're staying at on tour, just banana shit. Like we stay in cabins once a year. We'll rent a cabin to kind of like piece together what we are going to make into our next album, because we try to make an album every year. And when we're in these cabins, when we go to leave, Zach's always writing something in a guest book about how we had a great time, but a bear got in, and the bear got one of the bandmates, but like the rest of us made it through. There's a heavy amount of PTSD. The bear's got PTSD now, just crazy shit like that.
The bear has PTSD.
Dude, you should see this guy's Venmo transactions. It's the wildest. It's like, he's like, doth my lord need the eyeballs of the innocent and buckets of blood? And I'm like, what in the hell is this?
I love how traumatizing that may be to future guests of the cabin. They're reading it like, oh my God, there's bears. Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
We had a guy actually at that specific cabin where we figured out he was the owner because we're in there rehearsing. We've got a whole setup. Jake Mooney from Mooney Studios brings a whole recording setup and everything, so that way we can kind of catch all these ideas live. And this random drunk grown ass man comes walking into the cabin, and he's just like, "Hello, you guys ripping it up? You guys shredding?" And we're like, "Who the who is this guy? Because we're in the woods, like we're deep in the woods, nobody else around anywhere, and this dude he's like already in the house, like upstairs. We didn't hear him come up the stairs, go in the door. Turns out he was like the owner with his wife of that unit, and he just got really drunk and heard there was a rock band in there, so he just stumbled in there and then asked if he could play our guitars. He wanted to show us all of his like he wanted to play Smoke on the Water for us and all that stuff. So
What
we talked about him a little bit in the guest book
was he
too.
solid? Could he play?
No, he was not good. We were all trying to be so polite and like, bless Lynn. I had just bought him this really nice guitar. It looked like something Jack White would carry around. And then he just got the thing, was just using it. Dude's like, give me your axe. Let me see it. He could barely walk. We're like, oh my God, he's going to drop this guitar. But also, at first, we didn't know who he was. So we're like, I don't know. Maybe let's just comply because we feel bad. And also, maybe let's comply because maybe he's a murderer in the woods.
Yeah. Like whether he in fact was the owner or a murderer, you were far enough out in the woods where you just want to go with it.
Yeah.
You just say yes. Yeah.
We were very confused.
I love that. I want to circle back to something we were talking about a minute ago, like the variations and how you guys kind of can go a 5-piece rock outfit. You can go like a 13-piece. Different type of features for different artists, different performances. Do you have a personal favorite type of show? Like what's your vibe? If you can have the set that's exactly what you want it to be, what's that performance like?
I think my favorite type of show is because I mean we'll do it all. We do everything from like weddings
Sure.
to we even go smaller than a 5-piece. We've worked as like a 2-piece acoustic in restaurants and stuff like that. I mean we've even played in clothing stores and stuff. I mean this last year we played an 11-year-old dog's birthday party. So
That's
I like
awesome.
all shows, but my
Yeah.
favorite would probably be like a late night set on a big stage at one of those camping festivals because we do a lot of those type of things
Yeah.
like Dream Fest, and we're doing one this year that's all for the eclipse, and those are always fun because not only do we get to kind of be ourselves because some of the festivals like in town or fairs, things like that, food truck fest, things like that, they're all ages, and you got to kind of read the room. You got to play to the audience, and sometimes we get emails from these venues or festivals or whatever it may be saying, "Hey, we're happy to have you on the bill. We just saw some of your previous stuff online, and we were hoping, we could speak with the singer in the band." Just to kind of tone it back a little bit, maybe keep all your clothes on. Don't light any fires. We're not allowed to have explosives at our venue, and like because we do crazy stuff a lot of the time, and when you're doing some kind of local thing or a normal venue, you can't do that stuff. But at the festivals, you can just let loose and be wild, and it's so much fun when you have that option with a wider stage, so you can have featured acts, especially because festivals already have a lot of artists at large, is what they call them. So you can just pull random people from other bands that you've never got to play with and be like, "Jump up, here's the song, it's in this key." And then we all get to camp overnight together before we drive on to the next city. So I think that would be my ideal type of show.
I love that. Do you have
Okay.
one in particular that stands out as your all-time favorite show that you've done?
I'm a huge fan of Everwild personally, as a festival, because that's something we've done a few times. It used to be called Freak Stomp. Jim Gibraldi and the guys from Tropidelic, they or Garibaldi, I'm saying that wrong. The guys from Tropidelic, they throw that every year, and that's always a lot of fun because it's like one of those brother bands out of Cleveland that we don't get to see often. So I would say the one that reoccurs that I love is that one. But if I had to pick one random one,
Mm-hmm.
it would be Bunbury. Back in the day, we played that with. There was a lot of great bands on the bill, but like what is it, Foster the People and AJR, and a lot of great. Like our stage that we played on, we actually got fortunate enough to play on the main stage, thanks
Oh,
to Tyler Richardson from Promo West Productions hooked us up with that. And that main stage that day, we got to play. It was us, Third Eye Blind, who we've played with a few times actually, Incubus, and our favorite artist of all time, Jack White. Like we are such sluts for Third Man Record and everything else like that.
yeah, I saw your get up with Grayson the other day.
Dude, I'm a walking third man record.
Third man.
If I was like an F1 driver, third man would be my sticker. That's all over my shit.
That was so funny. I love that. Have you been to both the third man in Detroit and Nashville?
Yes, absolutely. We love going to those places. Whenever we're touring through there, we make it a point to stop there. We like stopping there just to look to see if we can find where we put our old stickers from the year prior.
Yeah,
Like we'll go
they're
in there
cool,
and
man. Like they're so fun, and like all the kitschy little carnival elements to it.
yeah, it's like
Love it.
Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, but
Yeah,
for music and bizarre shit.
yeah. And
Like what's that
if
thing they
you're like
got?
a vinyl nerd, like I'm huge into vinyl,
Yeah.
and what Third Man does, I don't know if there's anybody more creative and like out there with their way of thinking than the stuff that they do there. It's so fun. It's so
Oh
fun.
yeah, like even just the listening room for the vinyls is great.
Yeah.
I like the thing where you can create your own vinyl. They got those real old they're like phone booth sized recording studios. You see
Yeah.
those?
I did.
Those
Yeah.
things are amazing. We
Yeah.
actually made a couple of those tiny little records because it's like I don't even
Mhm.
remember what it costs. It's something pretty cheap. It's like $20.
Yeah. It's not
You
much.
go in there, you get a side A to side B, the little tiny vinyls, and then you go and you sing in a little coffee can or whatever, like it's the 30s. And you can sing something like "Happy Birthday" for your grandma or whatever. Me and the guys in the band, we like to try to see how many of the five of us we can squeeze in that thing, and try to just do something goofy. Plus, we're always just trying to catch their attention at the actual store. We did one time, and the
Yeah.
lady behind the desk, she was the booking agent for Bonnaroo. So we're like, "Here's our card."
There you go. There you go. Here's our card. I hope you like what you just heard. That's what we do.
Right? If you like that, there's more. Let us stretch out
Um,
at a place bigger than a phone booth, and we'll really rock you.
that's fun. So obviously, you said you guys all dig Jack White. Um, so for you, this is something fun. I always like to ask people, whether I'm talking to a musician or an actor or whatever. I like to know like what your Mount Rushmore is in your world, right? So like for you,
Oh, that's a fun one. I like that.
it is, yeah. Like, well, so what's your? I just love it,
Does it
right?
have
So
to
like,
be music, or can it just be anybody?
well, I want to know your Mount Rushmore of like inspirational figures, right? It
Okay,
doesn't have to.
yeah.
It can be anything you want it to be. Where do you
I'm
draw
sitting
from?
here trying. I'm sitting here trying to remember. There's four heads on Mount Rushmore, right? It's like
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Lincoln, George,
yeah, yeah.
Jefferson. I think. Who's the fourth one? Is it Edison?
No,
No, it's what's his name who created the
it's a
park system.
yeah. Should
Teddy Roosevelt.
what I love about it is how
I don't
they never finished it. Right?
know.
It was supposed to be like a much bigger project, and they just abandoned it.
That makes sense. I'm sure the Sioux people were not thrilled about the giant white faces carved into their sacred mountain, dude. What the fuck?
Right? Yeah. Read the room,
Anyway,
folks. Read the room.
my Mount Rushmore would be, if it was four heads, it would definitely be Jack White. Obviously, he is like a massive, massive musical inspiration for me. I mean, even just the way he grew up, just a poor guy, uh, with a big family, just trying to make his way. That's kind of how I grew up. And then, the way he goes in different directions with his music, kind of like changing with the times, like Beck or Madonna, and even just his live, relentless play. Like he's always said, if he's playing a song where he's playing piano and guitar on the same song, and it takes him 10 steps to get from the piano to his guitar stand, he puts his guitar 11 steps away just to make it hard for him. And I love that attitude. But I guess the second person who is responsible for how I am is would be Jim Carrey, I'd say. He's just a really physical actor, and I always loved that about him. And I always wanted to be a comedian. The only reason I'm in music is because I failed at stand up. Did it for years. I was awful at it. I was so bad. But yeah, I love Jim Carrey. Loved his movies. I love that I found out later in life about how his upbringing was rough too. He was poor. He was a janitor out there in Canada, working with I think his parents were dying of cancer and shit. He had a rough go, but he came
Yeah.
through with that. I love
I want to
Wes.
circle back to your comedy background here in a minute as well, because I want to know more about that. But let's
Oh,
finish them
for
out.
sure, for sure.
Let's finish them out.
I would say I love Wes Anderson because I'm a big film guy. I would say I like movies more than I like music, which people think is weird, but I think it's weird the other way around. Movies have music and other stuff.
Yeah, you
Wes
get
Anderson,
everything in a movie.
yeah,
Music is
right.
just music, man.
But he's just a wacky dude, and I like his style, and I like the fact that there's people who are like diehard. I don't know what you call that. Troop members, actors. I guess they're troops.
Yeah,
Uh, I think, yeah, it's what you call it, a troop. Like gorillas and stuff. It's like a troop, like a murder of crows.
and that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Like the famous comedy troops, like SNL and
yeah,
Second City and all that kind of stuff, right?
yeah.
Same
Broken
kind of
Lizard.
thing.
I like him for that because he gets these guys together like legends in my mind. Like Bill Murray, who was probably the fourth guy on my Mount Rushmore is Bill Murray.
Yeah,
I just love that
nice
he
segue, by the way.
say what?
That was a nice segue.
Oh, dude, I didn't even intend to do that. But so like Bill Murray, he's amazing though because like not only was he a part of those things, like what you were saying with like Second City and SNL and all of that, but he's stylistic in a way that you could hear a line that's a written word and be like, "That's Bill Murray right there." And I just love I love how he's clowning everybody all the time. Like, have you heard about this Bill Murray pranks and shit that he
Yeah,
does?
and just like the whole "no one will ever believe you" kind of thing, and tapping on
Yeah,
shoulders.
like where he
And,
takes that person's
yeah,
French fry and says, "Nobody ever believe you," or
yeah,
like
yeah,
he shows up and like does dishes at your house party randomly. And I love those things so much that I found out on the internet back when I was doing booking at Scarlet and Gray Cafe, RIP. I was a booking agent there, and it was on the back end of my comedy years. And I heard that he was just doing a tour of coming to college campuses, showing up and doing weird pranks like that randomly. And he said that all you had to do was have a sign at your house or venue or whatever that says "Bill Murray, you're welcome here." And then the other demand was that there had to be some form of alcohol, preferably tequila. And we had a full bar at Scarlet and Gray, and we had the sign, so we put it in the marquee: "Bill Murray, welcome here." And then he requested karaoke. So we rented a karaoke machine. Me and the owner, Helen, bless her heart, she was all in it with me. She was like, she didn't even know who Bill Murray is. She's from Africa. She's like, not pop culture person, you know. Like, so she's like, who is this Bill Murray? And I'm like, he's awesome. Hopefully we can get him here with all the bright lights written. And I actually canceled their weekly comedy show. They had a weekly stand up open mic that was great and was good for business, and I participated in it and loved it. I would attend if I wasn't participating and loved it. I canceled all of that with her just to make sure that we would have the opportunity to sing karaoke if you walked in the door. I
yeah.
find out the next day the whole press release thing was a scam. It was all made up. So I called off all this shit for no reason. And a bunch of my
That's
friends showed up.
heartbreaking.
It was, in its own way, it was like a Bill Murray prank, really.
Yeah, it's kind of very spot on. I used to live in Louisville. I lived there for 5 years, and there were multiple times I can think of at least three different occasions that he would show up at these bourbon festivals, but not. I'm not talking like bourbon and beyond. Like, I'm talking smaller local festivals with local,
Right.
and he would show up. And I don't know if it was playing with the organizers, but it was never announced. He would just be there bartending, or he would be there hanging out with people. I'm serious. And unfortunately, I was never at one of these when it happened, but it was always kind of in everybody's mind, like we got to get to this bourbon festival or this, whatever, or a tasting even, and just because Bill Murray might randomly show up. It's crazy.
I mean, I'll show up for the bourbon alone because if you're
Yeah,
out there
right.
in Kentucky drinking bourbon, you're already winning. But like, I feel like
Yeah,
it's one of his favorite pranks when he's bartending. I hear is that you order whatever you order. I'll have a bourbon, I'll have a beer, I'll have a scotch. But then he just, no matter what, gives you a shot of tequila.
yeah.
It's fucking
I've heard
funny to
that.
me.
I love
Ugh.
that. New Ghostbusters coming out in like March. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
I haven't seen the old new Ghostbusters yet.
Yeah, what is it?
I just,
Afterlife.
yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. And isn't Paul Rudd in? I love Paul Rudd. He's like
Paul Rudd is
America's
in it.
sweetheart.
Paul Rudd is in it. The one of the kids from, I forget his name, from Stranger Things,
Yeah,
and
yeah. I
and
forget
then
that kid's name.
the three living Ghostbusters Ernie Hudson, Dan Aykroyd, and Bill Murray they reprised their roles, and they're going to do so in the new one as well.
That's awesome. I'm with that. I'm all for them supporting, because then it's got to be halfway decent. Plus,
Have you?
Paul Rudd's just a shit.
Paul Rudd's great. Paul Rudd's great in everything he does. Have you not seen it because you are just nervous about? I'm assuming if you're a Bill Murray
Ruining my
fan,
childhood image of the movie? No,
I mean, there's an
that
element of
definitely
that, right?
not it. No, I've just been too busy to get to the theater. Like, part of it is, well, for two things is, nowadays my whole life is turned like a 180. Like, I used to be a huge, like, degenerate essentially, and was just running around on my own doing rock and roll stuff, and it was not healthy living and just being
Yeah.
wild and crazy all the damn time. And then I met my old lady Jordan Cahill and her kid Carson Anthony, and my whole life, it's like they say in the movies or in the books, you just turn on a dime when you love people like that. Now it's like, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, well, I gotta do this interview with Jesse, and then I gotta go get everything ready for his 7th birthday party, and it's not even today, and I gotta go to this wrestling practice. So it's like, it's hard to get to the movies, especially when you're doing a band, you're doing a bunch of odd jobs. I throw random events too on the side, like for Free Sandwich Productions, my company, or like we do like Bo Burnham tribute is the one we're working on now. We got a dodgeball tournament for people.
Love it.
We throw a festival called Columbus Covers Columbus, which is what this is. Three
Right on.
days, 3 stages. But where was I going with it? Oh, the other thing about the movies is, like, I have such a tie to the cinema, not just because I love it so much, but because I used to make movies myself, and I used to work there for a number of years. That's how I met my best friend and guitarist Lynn Roos,
Oh,
who is
cool.
now our bassist, because we had two problematic bassists, Bucktooth and Fart Stinka, that we had to get rid of them. And then I'm just thinking, because they're just awful people. But then I realized, like, oh man, maybe it's a bassist problem. So, like, we just got Lynn from guitar, who's been a saint his whole life, and put him on bass. Can't be problematic now.
Problem
Anyways,
solved.
I digress. I would get nervous in the theater because I've got like PTSD and a couple of little things upstairs. You know what I mean? So, like, I kind of stopped going to the theater because it started making me real nervous, and I would have like panic attacks in the theater, which is weird because I love it so much. Like, even just
Like
when
the
the
public
lights.
element of it, or what exactly?
I mean, there is a public element of it because, like, for as much as people consider me to be like a people person, I'm terrified of people. I used to be a very big social butterfly, but I also used to do like a bunch of drugs and stuff like that, and that kind of like masked all of my sheer terror with it. Even this,
Sure.
like the phone thing,
Yeah.
scares the daylights out of me. I don't know if you noticed, but I've just been like ripping the medicine over here, and like it's I got my license, but so like that stuff, the public element does scare me unless I'm the one running it, I guess. Like, if I'm the one driving, I guess is the way of explaining it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be the pilot. I don't want to be the passenger. Like, if
I
I'm
get it.
in the theater, in the crowd, I'm just terrified. But when I
Kind of,
worked in the
kind of a
movie
control
theater,
thing. Like
yeah, if I was working in
relinquishing
the movie theater,
control over something when anxiety is involved. In my experiences, relinquishing control is a difficult thing. Like I don't love flying for that very reason. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Same
for
kind of thing.
sure. I think a lot of people share that with you. But like,
Yeah.
if I'm doing something, I'm fine. Like, if I'm at a wedding, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta mingle. I gotta like chat everybody's ears off because I'm talkative when I'm nervous. But then if I'm bartending a wedding or something, or playing a wedding, you know, I'm fine. Put me in a crowd at a concert, bunch of people, pretty freaked out. Put me on stage in front of an endless sea of people, ducking water.
Yeah.
No
It's
big deal.
fascinating. It's fascinating. You know, find that very interesting. You're not the first. I know some other singers that similar, a similar kind of experience for them. It's difficult. It's almost like I'm not putting words in your mouth, but for my other friends who I'm referring to, it's kind of, if I have this role, it's almost a performance. Whether you're bartending, whether you're singing, whatever, and it's armor almost.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. That is
Yeah,
100% true. That's very astute of you to actually because I'm gonna steal that. I want to use it like that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's
Go
a
for it,
great
dude.
way of
Yeah,
explaining it. It is a bit of
yeah,
a armor. It's almost like
yeah,
even a physical barrier. Like, if you're bartending specifically, there's a wall between you
yeah,
and everybody else. And it's
yeah.
it's hard to explain to people when you do a show like ours, where we're very very interactive with the crowd too. We're not like one of those bands where the performers are afraid of the audience to a degree, like Trent Reznor or something like that. Or no, not Trent Reznor. What's the band where the guy he doesn't like going on stage?
I mean, there's a lot.
Tool.
Morrissey comes to mind.
I'm thinking of Tool. What's the guy's name from Tool?
Oh, Maynard.
Maynard something.
Yeah, Maynard
Yeah,
James Keenan or something like that.
he doesn't even want to be on the stage, but like we love being on the
Yeah,
stage.
doesn't he
We're
like
very much
plays
like
in the back or something?
yeah. I
I've seen
saw him
stuff
at
like that.
Sonic Temple or Rock of the Range, one of those here in Columbus at
Yeah.
the old Crew Stadium, and it was like the other band members had big lights on them just to kind of showcase them, and he was off to the side. I mean, the only vantage point you could see them were probably the worst seats in the house, were like the back corner of that
Huh.
whole stadium, top floor. Then you can kind of peer down and see him hiding in the back with the microphone. Like,
I
it,
remember seeing something about that. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, he was kind of hiding. I mean, that's interesting.
it's bizarre, man. I mean, I get that
Yeah.
terror, but like when we're doing it live, it's actually great for me. I love it. I love like I'll stop the show entirely just to talk to a random crowd member just about bullshit. Like it's just we love stuff like that. We like
Yeah.
making jokes with everybody, making up songs on the fly, kind of like a Mark Riviere type of vibe. But
Yeah.
then afterwards, when they're like, "Hey, there's a line of people with the merch table that want you to whatever," and I'm like, "Oh, oh shit! All right, here we go. Let me do a shot of whiskey or something. Let's get in it." Jeez, oh please! Even talking about it now, it's making me nervous.
Well, I think this is probably a good transition into what I was going to ask you about comedy. So you said you did it. How long were you doing stand up?
Somewhere between 3 and 5 years. I can't remember specifically because my memory is terrible, and that was also just like try to block that out.
Yeah.
It was so bad. I mean, I that was my whole dream in life is I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. I wanted to be like Jim Carrey or
Yeah.
nowadays like Dave Chappelle. Love Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
But I just, man, I was so bad at it. And I was so scared. And I had done plenty of public performance leading up into that. Like I was in choirs and I did like theater and stuff like that. And I was fine. Loved it.
What's
But
what's the hardest
I did.
part of stand up in your opinion?
I think it's being alone. I mean, because I always compared it to like basketball versus wrestling. Like when I'd be out there playing basketball, if I fucked up, I've got four of the guys on the court to help me and probably six other guys on the sideline cheering me on, like, but then when
Yeah.
you're wrestling, it's just you. When you mess up, that's on you. Sure, the success is that much greater and that much sweeter, but man, those failures are just, and it's quiet. It's so quiet. So you're just up there trying to tell people what you think is funny, and they're just looking at you like, why is this guy even here right now? And I have a bad habit too of like, I ever since like I stopped being a junkie, I like have a lot of emotions now in like weird big ways. So like when I'm laughing to the point of tears pretty regularly. Like it takes
You're just up there laughing at your own shit.
yeah. So now, and I've always been like a very poorly dressed guy, and I don't really care about appearances and stuff like that. Like even when you informed me like right before the interview, you were like, "This is video," and I was like, "Oh shit, let me change my shirt. Let me put some water in my hair." I was looking homeless as hell. So, anyways, I'm up there on stage looking like a homeless guy, laughing at my own jokes because I'm thinking I'm hilarious, but I'm the only one in the room who thinks I'm funny, and I'm crying from laughing. So I look like a crying, crazy homeless man. Just like, oh my God, you guys, it's so funny. What's wrong with you? Why did you think it's funny? Like, it was so bad. Good.
So I'm only asking you this because you said that there were some experiences that did not go well, right? So it's
Yeah.
commonly referred to as bombing in comedy.
Bombing.
What is that like? Because I have always like I've watched interviews and read things with different comedians because I love stand up comedy, and they say it's the worst thing in the world. Like it's
Man.
so scary.
Yeah, you ever like fallen out of a tree as a kid and just laying flat on your back and it takes the wind out of you, you know what I mean? Where you're just
Yeah,
like you dazed from
get a
it.
couple branches
Or
on the way
just
down. Yeah,
like you've been
yeah,
in a fist fight where you don't know you're about to be in a fist fight and that first hit connects and you're like, oh shit, I'm in a fist fight right now. Like it's like that. It's scary as hell. I think the worst time that I bombed I was so scared that I didn't even say my name, because you always want to say your name when you're doing open mics so people will remember who you are. The whole time you're building your career, you want to, I mean, up until probably you've been doing a decade, you want to be like, my name's Tony Casa, that's my time, that type of thing. You know, so your sign
Okay.
off, let them know your name so they remember who you are. And you always want to start strong, end strong. And I started strong, and one of the last times I did it. I guess the last time I did it, I got invited to do a charity thing where it was musicians doing comedy. So I was like, well, they're all going to suck. So I'll just go do it for this charity thing. And
Right.
that was fine. We all sucked together and bombed together. But the time before that was years prior. And it was at this open mic. And I mean, in the beginning, I was killing it. And it was so rare for me to just be killing it like that consistently throughout an entire set. And this one dude, this like older gentleman comes up from the back of the bar to like stand right next to the stage so he could watch me directly and hear me very well. He stood right under the speaker with his ear right, the older dude. And I'm talking, I'm engaging with him. I'm going on, what's up with you? Why are you walking up here? And he's like, you know, everything I heard from you, I was dying laughing about it. And people back there are playing pool and stuff, so I couldn't really hear you. So I wanted to come up here so I could hear you better, man. He's like, young man, you were killing it. And I'm like, hell yeah. So now I'm engaging with this dude. And like we're having jokes, this and that. And there was some racial material. He was a black dude. And there's some racial material that he was kind of laughing about. And I tried to press it further. And I was not well versed enough to do that. Shouldn't do it at all, to be perfectly honest. This is different times. You know, I'm 36. This is probably 15 years ago. But even then, not something you want to press, you know. And like that dude, he realized, he was like, now I feel like this is not funny anymore. And he like crossed his arms, and I was like, well, what's wrong? Are you all right? And he was like, that last one wasn't funny at all. And I was like, oh shit, was that like racist? And he goes, yes, sir, very racist. And I was like, uh, and I just sat there frozen and terrified, realizing, like, processing what I said. And I was like, you know what? That did kind of come off as racist. And I felt so, just the remorse comes washing over you like a wave. And I just walked out. I was just like, that's my time. Walked out the back door, the emergency exit, mind you. An alarm goes off. And I was like, you know what? We're done with comedy. That's it. That's it. Take that as the last L.
You just walked out the emergency exit, set the alarm off. That's amazing, man. Oh my god. I got and
I heard it so long while I was walking away, because I, first of all, didn't even start walking towards my car, just started walking into the night. And like you hear people trying to figure it out, like, no, I think you got to reset it. There's a key for it. Someone get the manager. And I'm like, oh my God.
oh my god. I got to tell you as well. Your two examples of what it's like to bomb are probably two of the better ones that I've ever heard. Falling out of a tree and being in a surprise fist fight. Like,
Well, nobody has ever asked me that question before, so that was just the first shit that came to
that's
mind.
good. That's good, man. There's a I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure you probably are familiar with it. There's a documentary. It's probably 10, 15 years old now, about what it's like to bomb on stage, and it's got a lot of very well known comedians in it. You know what I'm
Oh
talking
wow.
about? You know.
No, but I would love to see that. That would be
I'll see if I can find it
horrifying.
and send it to you. It's very fascinating. Like,
Yeah, I'll be secondhand anxiety riddled from
yeah,
that.
yeah. It made. I've never done stand up. I
You
wouldn't
should
dare.
try it. It's terrifying. I recommend it to everybody because it's scary.
Yeah, yeah. Right. Sounds great. Surprise fist fight, falling out of a tree. Yeah, sounds awesome.
I don't know. I mean, I'm terrified of heights and shit, but I'm trying to do more like zip lines and skydiving and hiking and tall places. You have to like have exposure therapy in your life. So if you find anything in your life that's scary, do that shit. My old lady George, she is mortified of sharks, the ocean period, but specifically sharks,
Yeah.
and has instilled this fear in her child. Even she's like, you got to be careful, them sharks are gonna get you. So we're going to Hawaii for her birthday, and I booked us both a trip to swim with the sharks in the open ocean with no cage,
Oh
just to
wow,
start. I've done it once before, and it's it's wild.
that sounds insane. But you're
It's so
absolutely right. Get out of your comfort zone. Do things that might scare you a little bit because that's great for personal growth. It really is, and you can conquer those fears if at all possible.
absolutely. I mean, even if it's not possible, you can at least take a little bit out of the fear. like if you're a snake charmer, you got to have a little bit of snake venom every day, just so when that snake bites you, it's not so bad.
Yeah, that's true. I want to ask you one more thing about the world of comedy and movies and all that before we dive into this awesome music festival you put together, 2-day show. But I wanted to go back, talking about comedy, but just in general. You love Bill Murray, Jim Carrey. You said Wes Anderson, all that. Like, what are some of your top films?
Top films. Well, me and my family, I don't know, we're ratchet people from the hilltop. That's a west side of Columbus. So like we like spending Christmas together with the family over a nice Quentin Tarantino film. Like
I
get the
love it.
kids,
I
let's
love
see
it.
some blood. Mom's going to be uncomfortable and go, oh, I can't. So I would definitely put like Pulp Fiction up there, but
Yeah.
because there's nothing better than sitting around with grandma and the nieces and nephews and seeing the gimp suit guy come out of, out of a lockbox. No, well, yeah. So that's gonna be on there.
Or the walk-in scene with the stopwatch up his ass. Yeah,
Oh my
that's a good one
god,
too.
so brutal. So much of that stuff. I love comedy wise. What's one of my favorite comedies? You know what I really like? We were talking about that acting troupe, that comedic acting troupe, Broken Lizard, who made like
Yeah.
Beer Fest and what was the cop one? Super Troopers.
Super Troopers. Yeah.
I
You
love one
have
that
you
they
seen the Slayman Salmon that they did?
That's what I was going to say. They did that
Oh,
in that same vein as like Waiting, but
yeah.
it's even better than Waiting. I'm a service industry guy, so
Yeah.
Slam and Sam. If
Same.
you're a cook, a bartender, a waiter at any point in your life, watch Slam and Sam. That shit is funny as hell.
Well, I was going to ask you next if there's something that you would recommend that maybe people don't know about, but that's probably it because not a lot of people know that movie. Not enough people know that movie.
Dude, I was talking about it at I throw this drunken spelling bee at Susie Q's pool hall. We do it once a month. Sign up start 7:30. Shots start at 8. We just get drunk and try to spell words, and it's a lot of fun because we roast each other while we do it. We shoot Nerf guns at each other, and because it's like a comedic thing, everybody was talking about they're making movie quotes, and so many Super Troopers quotes were flying around. And I was asking people there if they had ever seen Slam and Salmon, and it was like 1 person out of 10 had seen it.
Yeah.
Like this is probably their
It's
best one.
so funny. It's so funny.
God,
Especially if you work in the service industry in any capacity, front of house, back of house, management, doesn't matter.
yeah, dude.
It's so relatable. It's so good.
And if you have it, it's still funny.
It's still funny, yeah, but it's I love that.
And I
Let's
would say too, my favorite, like I want to say this is probably my favorite film is it's a movie called The Fall, which is also a pretty deep cut.
I
I
don't know that
can't
one.
name any of the actors who are in it. I haven't even seen any of the actors in it in anything else except for
Oh
maybe
wow.
one. And it's this fella. His name's Tarsine. You ever hear that guy?
Uh-uh.
He made that movie The Cell with Jennifer Lopez
Yeah,
and Vince
I know
Vaughn
that.
was a cop.
Yeah,
Real visual, real crazy director in that sense. And this was like this was his masterpiece, if you will, where he spent the last of his movie making time and movie making money to make one last huge, coup de grace or whatever you want to call it. And it was shot in like 17 different countries. And at the time, it was just the peak of camera technology. And he made this movie essentially about a guy trying to get. There's a dude in a hospital, and this won't spoil anything for anybody who's wondering, because I definitely do recommend you all watch this. It's one of the most beautiful visual movies I've ever seen, and it's about this guy who's in a hospital, and he's trying to get another patient who's like this 6-year-old girl to steal him pills, and which is also something I can relate to. Not getting a little kid to do it, but just addiction and things like that.
sure. Yeah,
And as he's doing that, he's befriending this kid by telling her a random made up story to just kind of get her imagination going, get her to trust him and things like that. And the story he tells, the way the director paints it for the viewer is through the eyes of the child. So it's very fantasy and ridiculous and just the colors are exuberant and it's so moving. The film itself, the writing is great, the acting's phenomenal. I mean, it's just there's even bits in it that the director did that, like for example, there's one scene where the guy kind of gets upset with the young girl and starts yelling and screaming and stuff, and they didn't even tell this kid. I was watching some behind the scenes stuff about it. This poor little kid just walks in for a shoot with this actor guy that she's been working with for a couple months, and out of nowhere he starts screaming in her face. So she just like freezes up, pisses herself,
Oh man.
then just scared rushes away. And they kept that shot in the film. Like, it's the craziest damn
Oh
filming
wow.
experience I've ever either. It's I don't necessarily support making little kids scared shitless, but like,
Yeah.
it comes across in the scene, man. It is such a good movie. The Fall by
That's
Tarsy.
intense. For a minute there, the way that you were describing that, I kind of made me think of that Big Fish, the Tim Burton movie, Big Fish.
Oh, dude, Tim Burton's so good, and I love Big Fish because I'm a storyteller. That's like my whole life is telling stories, and that was definitely up there on my list. You have great taste, you know, man. I'll tell you what.
Back at you, sir. Back at you.
Salute.
No, that's such a
any Tim Burton movie, really. I'm getting the kid to watch Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice and all that stuff nowadays.
Big Fish is another one that not enough people talk about. It was such a charming, like heartwarming movie. You know what I mean? And like fantastical tales of all of these, and there was like, there's an element of truth to everything. The whole time. And coming together, a father and a son after years of being kind of estranged, finding that bond at the end it was great film. Great film.
Yeah, it tugs at the heartstrings, that one.
It certainly does, yeah.
Anything Tim Burton makes, it's just fantastic. I just love those visual ones too. Like, you ever see what's his name? Something Del Toro. He made this movie Pan's Labyrinth. It's a Spanish film. You ever see that?
Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, he did like that, and
Guillermo, that's his name. Yeah, that's another one really crazy visual. That's kind of adult for how. I mean, it's like a fantasy film. It's pretty adult.
He did not this past Halloween, but the Halloween before, a little miniseries on Netflix, The Cabinets of Curiosities. Did you see those?
I saw that. Yeah, I haven't seen them all, but I saw one.
They're really, really good. There's a couple of them that really stood out. I was like, ooh, okay, pretty scary stuff. But I love those kind of, I don't know, Twilight Zone, Hitchcockian little miniseries type of things that they do from time to time. Big fan of that. Well, let's dive into something that's like really, really important that you're doing. It's going to take it. The Farewell Bash, yeah, like
Farewell Fest.
The Farewell Fest. So like 92.9, CD 92.9 is a beloved station here in Columbus, Ohio. That plays, indie rock, punk rock, alternative, so all of the Columbus bands, and staple the community for over 30 years, since 30-some years. And at the end of January, they will cease to exist for all intents and purposes. Now, there is some talk about maybe they'll try to find another frequency. Maybe they're going to try to do online streaming. But what we know for sure is that at the end of January, they will cease to exist. So you and a couple other creative individuals took it upon yourselves to lead the charge to put together this awesome Farewell Fest. And so many incredible bands that you guys, of course, and some friends of mine, some of my personal favorites, Huge, who has been on the show.
Yeah, right.
The Historians has been on the show, and there's so many great bands. Courtney from Work, and the Warren Flints, and on and on and on. How did this come to be? All right, I wanted to set the stage a little bit for people that may not know what's going on. So that's what's happening. You found that the station is going to be going away.
Right.
What's your mind?
Going under as we know it, as in its current form.
Yeah.
Like as what you were saying, a staple of the community, not just like a radio station, but like a multimedia juggernaut for the city.
It's huge. They have a venue attached to it, the Big Room Bar. They bring in national bands to play there. They have all kinds of shows. Absolutely.
Even with Zoo Trippin, we would play a lot of different random fun things with them outside of like local festivals and things like that. They supported interesting things that you wouldn't think of are even going to be a concert. Like the last show we did with them was a cookout, camp out on the Scioto, and it was like free camping for the kids and free s'mores for the kids. And they've got rock climbing wall out there that they had open at night. And they were doing canoes and kayaks in the day. And it's just like it's the coolest shit. Like, who thinks of this stuff? CD 101, 1025, 92.9 later on. And
Yeah.
like you said, they've been around like 33 years or something like that. As long as I've been listening to radio, to be honest. I'm 36 now. So yeah, I mean, they've been around as long as I can remember. I remember Andy Man and his treehouse and all that stuff too. So it's just been very crucial to me and my formation. Really, my Mount Rushmore should include CD 92.9 on it. Like
I
I'm
love
not
that.
even exaggerating in that sense. When they went down, I wept. I mean, I remember the night before we had played no, the night before we were having a rehearsal for this show the next day. And we all got in the band van. We named it Portugal the Van, which is a band I got turned. Portugal the Man is a band I got turned on to by 92.9. And we're
Yeah,
all in the van.
that's worth mentioning as well. Like so many, this station, the way you're talking about it, so many people feel that way. You know, I'm not from here originally, but I have latched onto that station as one of my favorite that I've ever heard. And you know, the DJs are amazing people. Randy Malloy is a great guy. The
Yeah.
events they do there, and how many bands have we all found out about from that station? You tell somebody
Yeah.
about it, and they're like, nobody
Because
listens
they're
to the
not
radio.
Clear Channel. They're not
We
playing what
do listen to the
everybody else is
radio in
playing.
Columbus, and we listen to them, and they play these bands, and we know about them. That's how I found out about your band, man. Was for the
Word. We probably got most press from them. We got more press from them than any other station ever. I mean, we love like when Maggie Brennan or anybody from like NPR spins us. Sometimes we get some plays on the Blitz, which is a good part about being kind of a multi-genre band, is you can kind of play on any station. But I will say they were more than just like playing our songs or introducing us to the new bands and things like that. Like they were providing us with stuff that even kept us out of trouble when we were kids. Like we would go and pay $5 for a Lodo show because we were kids and had no money, but we could get $5 together.
Yeah.
And then instead of, causing a bunch of ruckus, we'd go down there to the LC or whatever they were calling it at the time. And we would just have a whole day of amazing bands, which inspired me later on to do music too, outside of the local acts they were supporting, but the bands I was seeing at their shows. And then, when I started meeting them, I did the guest DJ a couple times, and I would go to the different events and meet these people because they're just real, regular Columbus citizens, just, air breathing human beings like you and me that are your
Yeah.
neighbors and act like your neighbors. They'll
Yeah.
provide a market for you. It's so many endless things. And that night before, it was one of those times where they actually featured us on the radio. Tom Butler does a segment called Front Stage every weeknight, 9 p.m. He'd feature a local act. They'd play a couple songs by the band and talk about their next shows, this and that. So it's always a huge honor for any local act to be a part of that at all. And we happened to be on it a couple weeks ago. It was that Thursday night. Tom's playing our music. We're all in the van listening to it. We live streamed it. We're just sitting there clowning around, smoking down, telling band stories and CD 92.9 stories, and talking about how much we love Tom and the other DJs and the station as a whole. And then the next morning when we woke up, we woke up to good news and bad news. Good news was our show that night had sold out. Bad news is the radio station went under, and they announced that they were going to shut down on the 31st. And it was like this weird fog going to the show and performing, because there's all these local musicians there, and everybody's just like, they're happy that we're all together for this fun show, and everybody's happy it's sold out and this and that. But it's just, and that's all anybody was talking about. Everybody was talking about it. And as soon as the show ended and the lights went down and you're just left in bed, with that ringing in your ears, I just started crying. My old lady's patting my back because she's not really, she's more of like a streaming person, you know what I mean? Which is most people are. That's why radio is hard to come by now. And this station was one of a few in the nation like this. They didn't even have one like this in California. So
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking that it's happening. But that night, I was talking with Casey Ward from Electric Cult Circus, the mighty Lisa Cave, who does amazing things for the music scene all over. And we're sitting there just kind of in mourning together and talking about, we got to do something. Last time the radio station went under, Casey was throwing all types of shows and festivals to help save the station, raising all types of fun. Lisa does the same thing, so we figured maybe there's something we could do. We reached out to everybody we knew. We realized it wasn't an option. It's like as Bruce Garfield from the Music Commission expressed to me, it's a 7-digit problem. You know what I mean? So it's not something we can feasibly solve. So at that point, it was just about, all right, if we're going to have a funeral, we're going to, as Casey said, put the fun in funeral. We're going to we're going to send these guys off with a bang. We're going to raise some money for these people because, we don't know what's going to happen, and it's heartbreaking. Not just because we lost this station for ourselves and our own selfish reasons, but because these people, they're in a field that's like paper print that's on its way out. It's not coming back like vinyl is. So, I mean, where do they go now? A lot of them, it's they've dedicated their whole lives to this. It's a one skill set type of cat, It's like if I couldn't play music, I don't know what I would do. I don't really have a lot of skills outside of it, Can't go back to comedy. Fuck that.
We're recording this right now. It's Thursday. This show is 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, 27th and 28th. 28 bands, right?
Yep.
How did you decide on these bands? Do you have personal connections and relationships with all of these people? Where did that come from?
Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah.
For sure, I was thinking of bands that I've seen at CD 101, 1025, 92.9 events. And I'd reached out to them because I knew that they had a connection with the station, and I knew they were hurting like everybody else. Yeah. And I knew that they would jump at the opportunity to, rock out for the cause, because contrary to what Randy believes, because the way I got this happening initially was that next morning I woke up after the news had hit, and I just texted Randy, which is insane that as like the years have passed, now I have this dude's phone number. That's how like close we have grown at this point. So I just texted him. I'm like, dude, I'm sure you're swamped. I'm sure you're hurting. I just want to know, can I throw you guys one last party? And I figured if the station's going off air officially on the 31st, that's a weekday, I believe it's a Wednesday. The last day to throw a show would be a weekend day. So I wanted to take that Sunday. I didn't know what they normally had going on Sundays. But I was like, hey man, can I have it? Can I try to make some magic happen here for you guys? And he's like, that's fine. I told him plan roughly, and he said it sounded like a great idea, but he disagreed with me in the funds. I told him we're going to take none of the bands are going to be paid. Nobody's going to be paid. And we're going to give all the money to the staff, like the sound engineer, the DJs, the people who work in the office. Maybe not the interns because they're already unpaid interns. So just go get my fucking coffee and quit your bitching.
Go give ideas now, right? Yeah.
We love you, interns. We got a case of water for you in the back. I'm kidding. But, we're going to give the money back to him. And Randy's like, nope. We got to give the money to musicians. That's the one thing I insist on. So I just lied to him and told him that's what I was going to do. But all the musicians as soon as I ask them, here's your pay. Would you like to give this to the staff or would you like to keep it? They're going to go staff. So Randy's just going to have to swallow his pride and let these cats have some money in their pocket.
That's such an amazing gesture too. Like to do that. I wasn't even aware of that. I don't know if that's something that's you've talked about prior to this.
I try not to talk about it because Randy said this is his one condition for me to throw the show is that we give the money back to the musicians, because he's that type of patron saint of rock and roll that he insists on, even on his way out, going down with the ship like a proper captain and giving the money to musicians. And I'm like, I'm just going to lie to him.
Good on you guys for doing that. That's really cool. That's really
it'll be fun,
really awesome.
And I've gotten help too, with some volunteers here and there. Ricky from Pepsi helped me out. Lisa Cave obviously, and Casey Ward. I've got a gang of volunteers, but Knox actually hit me up. Knox Fields. He works with Bravo Artists, which is a production company here in Columbus, Ohio, and he works closely with some people I've grown to really enjoy in the scene. People like Misha Richards and who else? A lot of random cats from Bravo Artists. Honestly, they're a great company. But that guy was trying to do an event at the bar that he books at as well, called Ace of Cups, which is a great place. And he also does events at Big Room Bar. So when Lisa contacted me, Lisa Cave, she said, well, we can do something at Natalie's where she does booking, another wonderful venue. But we got to work out, tables and this and that. And as she was explaining that, I told her that my plan was to do it at the station because I want the money to stay in the station. I want the bar sales to go to the station. I want the tips to go to the station. And I wanted to have the memory of closing down that station together with all of us. And so Lisa and Knox were on board immediately with that idea. And that Sunday, Randy said I could have from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. and I filled it up so fast. I felt terrible turning down all types of backs. There's a lot of people that have been contacting me with emotional messages, calls, seeing me in public, just talking about how they feel terrible that they're not on the bill because they feel like they owe this station such a service. And I wish I could fit everybody, honestly, but the overspill went on into a show over at Ace of Cups that Knox is throwing. He's also going to be running the first day. He picked up that Saturday before, and we worked together finding bands to just fill these slots. And it was just like boom, 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 fast, 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 and we're still ironing out these ideas because we only found out about this a couple weeks ago. Now we have a
All
full
came together very fast, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Now we have a full-fledged 2-day festival. We're trying to get the tents for parking lots because it's sold out in 4 hours. So it's like we got to have ways that people can come in and out because everybody's emotional about even attending. They're like, we have to go out, with the bang together. And that's like the thing, not with the whimper, but with the bang. So we're trying to find ways to get maybe even local acts that want to, play solo acoustic stuff that want to be on the bill. Maybe they can be out in the tents and maybe it'll be warm enough to pull that up so they can play and attend. And then the people who are waiting to get in, since it's sold out, as people leave, they'll still be able to hear some stuff. So we're just trying to get everybody involved, but it's hard because this whole city is so into what this station has provided for so long that they all want to be a part of it. And I can't blame them. Honestly, you feel it, man. It hits you in the heart, man.
So both days are sold out.
Sold out in under 4 hours both days.
Yeah.
But we're going to do like one person in, one person out type of thing. So we'll have like somebody at the door all day, every day. Because I can't imagine everybody's going to come and stay for 12 hours. That's wild. So people will come in.
What I'm getting at is there is still a reason for people to pay attention to posts from you and from the station because there may be some movement on that.
Absolutely. There's all the reason to do that because like with specifically the event page and my personal page and probably Knox's personal pages, day of the event.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to those because as people leave for example, one of the biggest acts that Columbus has ever seen and the station's ever seen and worked with directly, like with Brian Phillips and Colin Gow in the morning, is Watershed.
Yeah.
Outside of like Willie Phoenix, they're the ones that really got it popping in this town when it came to live music and gave the station a ton of their time and a ton of their blood, sweat, and tears. And they offered to play the first day first. So that's like having your headline act say, we'll come through at noon,
Yeah.
So the people who can come through early and can't stay late, they're going to get their headline act coming out swinging.
That's really cool.
We love that because for two reasons outside of like, that's just a fun thing to experience. A lot of people will show up for these bigger acts early on. And then afterwards, if they leave, opens up the floodgates so that we can go, hey, we got the clicker, we've got the event page, there's X amount of tickets available now, come through.
Now you mentioned there's a lot of people that have reached out. You couldn't get everybody on the bill. Was there anybody that you really had in mind that you wanted to try to get for this that for whatever reason they just weren't able to do it, couldn't get it together?
My top 3 acts, because I honestly, everybody that was suggested to me and everybody I personally wanted to reach out to, and the onslaught of people from just posts and stuff like that made it really easy to book. But if I had 3 acts that I think have good ties to the city and to the scene and to the station that I wish were on the bill but I couldn't secure, was Willie Phoenix, who I mentioned earlier, because he's just a legend in this town, and he inspired the bands that are playing now. And we couldn't solidify Willie. I think he had something going on that day, but outside of that, another one would be the Orphan the Poet, I believe is how you say it, or maybe it's just Orphan Poet. I'm not sure.
I think it's the Orphan. I think you had it right the first time, I believe.
Yeah, the Orphan the Poet. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. But I just keep seeing them on these events with them recently in the past few years, and I keep hearing them on the station, and people speak very highly of them, and I love their sound, and I just like,
they're good.
I have no idea who these people are, and I should. Like, I feel like that's my job in this town, and I'm like, fuck, I'm fucking up my job out here. But then the third band would be it was Willie Phoenix, the Orphan the Poet. There was a third one that's eluding me right now.
It's all good. I was just curious because, like, with such short notice, I'm
Oh,
sure
Doc Robinson. Doc
Doc
Robinson. Love
Robinson.
those guys. It's like
Yeah,
a
they're
local
great
super
too.
group, and they're all over the radio there too.
With such
But
short
they're,
notice, I'm sure that I was sure that there was people that wanted to do it that just couldn't because of prior engagements. And I was just curious who some of those people are. Like in all honesty, this bill is stacked. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
it's full
so
like a pack full,
many
dude.
fantastic bands on this, and
I love that Knox got Snarls. I was like, I can't reach Snarls, and I'm like, what the fuck? We
yeah,
played like the Newport together last time we played
yeah,
together with Snarls and Zoo Trippin, and I'm like, I can't get a hold of these people. And Knox is like, let me try it. And like an hour later, he's like, we got Snarls. They're down. Like,
they're great, and
hell yeah.
that's another band I discovered Snarls from the station. I've seen them play the big room, and
They're
it's just
blowing up.
they're fantastic. They're an incredible band.
They might be our next 21 Pilots for all we know.
They really could. They really could.
Like we were actually talking about that, about like bigger Ohio acts, or specifically Columbus acts. The bigger ones would include Snarls. We were discussing this on a show. My buddy William Mount has got a show called The Sounds of Busstown, and on that we were talking about, if Snarls blows up, if they get famous enough, Casey Ward was saying, just have them buy the radio tower. Like if they get famous, like 21 Pilots, Black Keys, something like that, Snarls, buy the radio tower. Hashtag buy the tower.
But we're gonna wrap it up, my man, because I have held you long enough. We can continue talking. I know your phone's gonna die. So like the Saturday and Sunday, 27th and 28th, the not with a whimper but with a bang, the
Farewell
goodbye
Fest. Yep.
farewell fest.
It's bittersweet, but it's going to be a sweet time.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, thank you, my man. Appreciate your time, and good luck with everything this weekend. Appreciate everything that you're doing for the local music community and for the station. And thanks to everybody for listening. This has been Sound Out. I'm your host, Jesse Hubbard. Until next time, friends.
All right. Cheers, Jesse. Thank you so much, brother.